Hi, science friends. My name is Nicole Leatherwood, and I'm a 6th grade science teacher at Gresham Middle School. The handout that accompanies this video can be found on the KCS website under the Student Resource tab. This is Activity 1 of 6th grade science, and today you're going to be learning about weather. If this video is hard to understand, turn on the closed captions if available, adjust the playback speed to slow down the video, consider watching short clips, then pause, listen, and watch again. Ask someone in your home to watch the video with you, stop frequently, and talk to your partner about what you heard and understood. So today, we are going to be going over predicting the weather. This is ESS 2.5, analyze and interpret the data from weather conditions, weather maps, satellites, and radar to predict probable local weather patterns and conditions. So, what's our learning target today? What do we want to make sure we know after we're done with this lesson? Well, you should be able to identify weather tools and use them to make weather predictions. Today's essential question is, in a world that is so unpredictable, how can humans predict the weather? Let's start with, well, who predicts the weather? We call that a meteorologist. You might have seen a meteorologist on the news before you get up and go to school, and to figure out what you're going to wear for the day. They'll let you know if it's going to rain or if it's going to be sunny or maybe snow. Well, meteorologists they're just scientists who study weather. They also collect data from all around the world, and they are predictors of the type of weather for a particular area. When we talk about long-term weather, the average weather, that's really what determines what a climate is. And we learned about different climates back in the fall, and what makes a certain area hot, cold. Is it the desert? Is it the rainforest? How much precipitation does it get? Those are the factors that determine different climates. So here is a local meteorologist, Matt Hinken, and some of you guys might have seen him on Channel 6. And he's actually going to tell us about all the weather tools that he gets to use every day to predict the weather.
For most of you, the first weather instrument you ever learned about was this guy right here, the thermometer. You know, it's a Celsius Fahrenheit scale. Maybe not this big, but it still does the same purpose. Tells us how hot or cold it is outside, or you can have indoor thermometers as well. So you have your thermometer, and then you have your anemometer. An anemometer, that tells us how fast the wind's blowing. So you can get your anemometer here, do it this way, faster the wind blows, get you lightheaded there. The anemometer gives you wind speed only, not wind direction, but wind speed. If you want to know about the wind direction, you'd go to a wind vane. And the wind vane, you don't need to buy one. You can just look outside, look at a flag on a building, or maybe smoke up on the horizon, or maybe something blowing down the road, the water blowing on the lake, leaves on a tree, windsock at the airport. All those different ideas are different types of wind vanes, or can be used that way. A barometer, we've got one in here, measures the pressure in the atmosphere. So high pressure, barometer rises. Low pressure, barometer falls. High pressure brings happy weather. Low pressure brings lousy weather. And there you have the barometer. A rain gauge, well, you can use a number of different buckets and different ways to measure rainfall, but make sure you have an open area to collect the rainfall when the rain does come along. So you want to make sure of that. And then this long word, the sling psychrometer, that measures humidity in the atmosphere. So some of the girls might say their hair is frizzy when it's humid out. Sling psychrometer can measure that for you. What about a couple other ones? This thing right here, Storm Tracker 6 Doppler radar, that tells us where the rain's falling. This right here in the middle is a weather balloon. And that weather balloon is launched by the National Weather Service, goes up into space about 20 miles or so, and explodes and sends the weather instruments back. And then how about this? Satellite, about 23,000 miles up in space, is taking pictures of clouds and rain across East Tennessee. And oh, by the way, how do we measure rainfall? With a rain gauge? What about snow? The ruler. It's been a long time since we had to use one of these in winter.
So using all those tools help determine the different types of weather that we're going to have here in East Tennessee or in any area in the world. When we think about how do weather people, meteorologists, how do they forecast the weather? They look at four main areas of weather. They look at the wind speed, which, like Matt Hinkins said, you use an anemometer. They look at humidity. They use what we call a hygrometer or a sling psygrometer. They think about air pressure. Well, when we think about air pressure, we're going to be using a barometer and also temperature. Those are the four main factors that really help meteorologists forecast our weather. So let's talk about the first fun factor, and that is wind. So as we talked about before, we use an anemometer to determine and measure the wind speed. So wind speed determines how fast the wind is blowing and how fast the storm will arrive. We might have been outside and felt the wind before. It might have been just a windy day, or a storm could have been coming. Well, we learned about what causes wind when we learned about ocean currents and land and sea breeze. So this is a little bit of a review, but it is caused by the uneven heating of the Earth's surface. If we have really, really strong winds coming, that means a storm is on its way. And when we have a really, really windy, a rapid like forming rotation, a funnel cloud, that is called a tornado. Now, just like Matt Hinkins said, a wind vane can be used to tell where the wind is coming. A wind vane is always which way the wind is coming from. The second fun factor is humidity. What do we use to measure humidity? Well, it's called a psychrometer or a hygrometer. So humidity. Humidity is the amount of moisture in the air. The higher the humidity, the more likely for precipitation. So higher humidity means more moisture in the air. Less moisture in the air is less humidity. Moisture can also be called precipitation. This can be in the form of rain, sleet, snow, or hail. The third fun factor is air pressure. What do we use to measure air pressure? Well, we use a barometer. Air pressure is the weight of the Earth's atmosphere pressing on the surface of the Earth. If we have heavy air, that means we have a high pressure system. That means the pressure is rising and we have good weather on the way. If we have light air, then that means we have a low pressure system. That means the pressure is falling and that precipitation is on the way. Steady pressure just means whatever the current conditions are, precipitation or sun, is what we're going to have at that current time. The way that I like to think about how I can predict if we're going to have good weather or bad weather is high pressure brings happy weather. Okay, we get to go outside, we get to play. Light air or a low pressure system brings lousy weather. We have some kind of precipitation. So that's kind of how I think about it. High air or high pressure, happy. Low pressure, lousy weather. The fourth fun factor is temperature. What do we use to measure temperature? A thermometer. Most of you guys have probably used a thermometer, even if it's just to take your own temperature to see if you have a fever. The temperature actually determines how much water vapor the air can hold and what type of precipitation will fall. So if we have a higher temperature, it holds more water vapor. If we have lower temperature, that means it holds less water vapor. Now, it's very important to understand when we're looking at temperature, we need to know the freezing point. If we know the freezing point, then we know what type of precipitation will be on its way. So if it's 32 or below, it might snow. And what is that in Celsius? It's 0 degrees Celsius. So now that I've introduced all of the different weather instruments and the 4 fun factors, let's do a little practice with different scenarios. So we have Sam, Hannah, and Ava. They're really wanting to go outside today after school, but afraid it might rain. What instruments would they use if it's going to rain or not? What would they use to see if it's going to rain? So what are those things that we need to know that will bring rain or can help us predict if rain is coming? Give you some think time. So one thing is definitely a barometer. Remember I said low pressure system, the air pressure is dropping. That's going to bring lousy weather or some type of precipitation or unsettling weather. What could be the second one to see if it's going to rain? A hygrometer or a psychrometer. What is that for? Well, that's going to measure the humidity in the air. If there is humidity in the air, that means that moisture, there is a good chance that it could rain. Because in order for it to rain, you have to have that moisture. Let's look at another scenario, okay? Allie, Braylon, and Andrew studied for their science quiz, but they feel like sleeping in. They hope it snows tomorrow. I'm sure we've all been there before. What 3 weather instruments would they look at to see if it'll snow? So let's think about that. What do we need to know? What can we use to predict if it's going to snow the next day? Hopefully the first thing you thought was a thermometer. Remember, if it's 32 or below, it might snow. So they need to know, well, what's the temperature going to be? Is it going to be below 32 degrees in order for that water vapor, that moisture, to formulate into ice crystals or snowflakes? What's another one? Hopefully you thought a barometer, because that tells you right away. If that air pressure is dropping, that means you have low air pressure, which means you have some lousy weather that's forming. And what's the third one? Snow is a type of precipitation. So what do we need? We need that moisture. So we need a hygrometer or a psychrometer to see if it's gonna be able to have enough moisture in the air to produce some type of precipitation, regardless if it's snow or sleet or hail or rain. So let's practice predicting the weather, okay? I have a data table here and it says predict the weather at 5 o'clock. So in the data table, you have the time, 9 o'clock, 11, 1 o'clock, and 3 o'clock. And then you have the temperature, and it's both in Celsius and Fahrenheit. So at 9 a.m., it's 28 degrees Celsius, 84 degrees Fahrenheit. At 11, it's 33 degrees Celsius, 91 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's see, at 1 o'clock, it's 31 degrees Celsius, 87 degrees Fahrenheit. And at 3 o'clock, it's 25 degrees Celsius and 77 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you're not familiar with Celsius, we're definitely familiar with Fahrenheit. Now let's talk about the air pressure. Now, the way that we measure air pressure is actually in millimeters of mercury, okay? They're in millimeters. So we have 762 millimeters, 758 millimeters, 736 millimeters, and 730. My air pressure is doing what? What are those numbers doing? Are they rising? Or are they dropping? Looks like they're dropping, right? And then I got my wind speed over here, okay, in kilometers. And it's 4 kilometers an hour, 6 kilometers, 16 kilometers, and 20 kilometers by 3 o'clock. So my temperature is dropping a little bit. My air pressure is dropping. And my wind speeds are really getting up there, 20 kilometers per hour. So do we think it's going to be windy and rainy? Windy and snow? Hot and dry? Or calm and clear? Well, if I know my air pressure is dropping and I have low air pressure, I know I'm going to have lousy weather. So I think I can eliminate hot and dry and calm and clear. Is it going to be windy and rain or windy and snow? So now I need to look at my temperature because that's really important, factor of what type of precipitation I'm going to have. So it's 84 degrees. It's pretty warm. So what's going to happen at 5 o'clock if I were to predict the weather is I would say it's definitely going to be windy and rainy. So after learning about all the weather tools, let's build a barometer of our own. So what are the materials you'll need? You're going to need a small glass jar. You can even use a tin can or an empty food can. You can use any type of plastic wrap or even a large balloon will work. You're going to need scissors, tape, a drinking straw or a stirring stick or even a popsicle stick will work really well. You're going to need an index card or a sturdy piece of paper and a rubber band. So here's what's going to happen. As you can see the picture, this is the finished product of the barometer to give you an idea of what it would look like. So your first step is using the plastic wrap. You're going to cover the top of the can and secure it using a rubber band. I'm going to show you right here. This is the jar that I used, and this is the plastic that went right over it. Just went right over the plastic, and then I got a rubber band and I secured it. Next, you're going to take the straw or your stirring stick or whatever it is that you got, popsicle stick, and you're going to put it horizontally on the top of the can. You're going to make sure that the center, okay, is widthwise, just cutting this circle right in half. And I'm going to show you right here. So I just taped mine to the top. Okay, I did have to cut my straw a little bit. It was really long, and I just taped it. Next, you're going to tape the index card to the behind the straw, or you can even tape the index card to a wall or anything like that. I taped mine to the back of it, like so that when I made my line to see where my air pressure was, that it was right behind the straw. But you could also tape it to a wall so that you can just use it to just mark where the air pressure is. Now, do not make this on a rainy or low pressure day, okay? Or if there's a storm. You want to make one of these on a day that it's pretty nice outside, and we have steady pressure. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to record the location of your straw on your index card, and I'm going to show you. I made a line right on mine so that when I taped mine originally, that's where my straw was. That was a straight line across, okay? So that when you check your very own barometer the next day, your straw will either be up, down, or it might be right in the middle. Now, if we have a storm coming in the next few days, you are going to see that straw and that air pressure in here, you're going to see it go down just a little bit. You can do this as often as you want, And you can ask yourself, does the location of the straw change? Is this going to help me predict the weather? What's going to happen in the next few days? Barometers are huge, valuable tools that meteorologists use in order to predict and forecast weather for us. I want to thank you so much, and you have incredible lessons coming after this that will talk about weather and all the fun things about weather. Thank you.